What's up guys, Ninja JDM here, and today I'm bringing you my review / thoughts on the Assassin's Creed movie. So before I start the review, I just want to explain why I'm doing it. Basically, I want to do more commentaries in the future, and I'll do things such as tutorials, or I can comment on my gameplays, and do things like explaining tricks and tips that newer players, or even some more advanced players won't know about. Also, just in general, I tend to enjoy watching YouTube videos that have people talking and their reactions, and I've noticed that in the AC community, not too many people do this anymore. So yeah guys, if you want to see me doing more commentaries in the future, let me know in the comments and like the video. And lastly guys, in the background I've just got some deathmatch gameplay. These games are against some pretty good people, so I wanted to upload it, but just haven't yet. And yeah, I guess if you don't like my commentary, you can just mute the video and enjoy the game. Alright, on to the actual review. I know it's been out like a good month now, but I've only just seen it for a second time. The first time I watched it, I just watched it to enjoy it really and didn't make any notes. Whereas this time, I'm watching it more critically. And I've seen other reviews like Tyler and James, who if you don't know are two pretty good Assassin's Creed YouTubers. And they did a review in one of their podcasts called the Kill Connor Club, which I'll link in the description. And yeah, it's just a really fun review, so if you're interested in it, you should check it out. But yeah, my review's not going to be too serious. I'm just going to talk about my thoughts on the film and how certain things do and completely don't relate to the game, and then just some things I think that could have been improved on. Also, I forgot to mention this before, but yeah, this video will contain spoilers, so if you haven't seen the film already and are planning to, maybe come back and watch it later, unless you just don't care, which is fair enough, and I hope you enjoy the video. To begin with, I'll just say that my overall view of the film was, I liked it. I wasn't one of the people that absolutely hated it. There's lots of flaws in it that I can and I'm about to point out pretty much. But yeah, I still enjoyed it and thought it was a pretty good movie. Fair enough, it's probably since I'm just really biased and love Assassin's Creed. I think that a big problem people had with it was that it was supposed to link to the games, and I swear that in promoting it people said it did. But for example, the first scene, Aguilar's just becoming an assassin. I like that they did that, it kind of introduces the character, but it's set in Spain, 1492, and they chop off his finger. In Assassin's Creed 2, that's set in 1476, and I'm not sure which year exactly, maybe a few years after, Ezio gets Leonardo da Vinci, and he basically fixes the hidden blade so they don't need to chop off people's fingers. Yeah, I noticed that straight away when I was watching the film, and I'm letting it go, to be honest, since fair enough they can change it, or they could have other reasons like that they didn't get the memo in Spain, I don't know. But yeah, that was in the opening scene, 5 minutes into the movie, so that's probably one reason why already some people are like, what the fuck have they done? Why have they changed this? Alright, my next point is about the origin of Callum Lynch. Basically, the film starts off when Cal is a kid and he gets home and his father has just killed his mother in order to stop the Templars from getting her DNA and memories. Yet he lets his son get away, who has basically all the same memories as his mother. But for some reason, what must have went through his mind is that I better kill my wife because I don't think she could get away and I don't want Abstergo using her. Yeah, I'll let my son go because I'm sure he'll be able to get away even though my wife can't. He's a trained assassin. What? Fair enough, later on in the film, I think he says like, yeah, couldn't kill my own son. But still, that's pretty dumb thing to base the whole movie off. And also, in the games, Abstergo used Desmond's DNA when he's dead, so surely it wouldn't really make much difference. But yeah, never mind. Moving on, I'm going to talk about the Abstergo facility that Cal and all of the other assassins are being held at. Yeah, I don't really get it. They say in the movie it's a rehabilitation wing of the Abstergo Foundation in Madrid, and unlike Desmond in the first few games, they say he's not a prisoner, yet he can't leave, so he pretty much is. However, they seem to let the assassins kind of walk around and have a canteen, and there's some scene with some grass and shit. I don't really know what that's about. But yeah, it's just a dumb idea. Why would they let assassins walk around and talk to each other? Since they're trained killers, and I'm sure they could come up with a plan to escape, like they do in the end of the movie. And also, none of the guards have guns. Whose idea was that? Because they didn't even say, no, we can't kill them because they're valuable. Instead, Sturgo must have just thought, if they do try to escape, no, I'm sure we can handle it. It's not like they've been trained to kill, or we put them in an animus that also does that. I mean, fair enough, in the games they don't, other than the third one, but still, it's 2016, so I'm sure guards would have guns. So next up, I'm going to be talking about the new animus. Whilst I like and understand why they made a new animus, being that it's more interesting for the audience to look at than someone sitting in a chair, there are a few things that are a bit dumb and they didn't think about it. For example, in the games, the main part of the story focuses on the ancestor and you being inside the animus. Therefore, it doesn't matter that you don't see Desmond or whatever protagonist is doing something. And fair enough, in the movie, most of the story focuses on being outside of the animus. But number one, that's a bit dumb because in the games, the majority of people prefer being inside the animus, so surely you would focus on that. And number two, if you compare Assassin's Creed to something like The Matrix, most of The Matrix is set inside of the Matrix and you're just sitting in a chair on the outside. So again, it's not really necessary to show someone being thrown around by a machine. Also, the first time we see this it's okay, and even the second time maybe, but after that I think they just baby the audience too much, because they keep showing Aglia doing moves and then Callum Lynch doing the exact same thing, and yeah, it's just not really necessary. After the first few we get it. Another annoying thing about the new Animus is why is it in Spanish and hasn't been translated. Now I get that this is probably the director's choice and they did this to make the film seem more authentic. However, doing this has probably made half the audience just stop listening and not pay attention. If this was an artsy film, that's fair enough. I respect the director for doing it, but it's Assassin's Creed, and even in the games, the Animus translates for us. And fair enough, again, you may say that the games and film are separate, but in this respect, no it's not, because they decided to include the Animus 2.0 as an Easter egg in the background, and that Animus was made in 2012 and it can translate, yet the one in 2016 can't. Also, they fucked up again, because even later in the film, Sophia literally says, translate that to something Christopher Columbus said. Lastly, I have two more little parts about the Animus, as I know this has been going on for quite a while. The first is that Callum gets taken into a room where everyone is paralysed or brain dead, and the explanation given is that Abstergo basically forced them into the Animus, so they entered it not of their own free will, and therefore this was like a bleeding effect. That's not how it works. But anyway, after that, you then learn that for some reason his father's there, yet he's in that room and hasn't had this effect, as he can move and then kills a guard at the end. And secondly, at the end of the film, Callum breaks the Animus and is surrounded by his ancestors and other assassins, including his mother, who talks to him and encourages him to join the order. While that's not how the Animus works at all, I'm guessing they just did it to reference Assassin's Creed Revelations when Ezio talks to Desmond, as that is one of the most epic moments of the series. Fair enough that it's done wrong, being that in Revelations Ezio doesn't directly talk to Desmond, but it's a bit confusing to explain if you wouldn't know the series, so I won't go into it. However, whilst watching it in the cinema, I did get chills, and I understand why they did it to reference Ezio, so I'll let that part go. Finally, moving on from the Animus, I'm going to be talking about the bleeding effect, or their dumb version of it. Now, for those of you who don't know, in the games at least, the bleeding effect is this cool thing that allows you to learn your ancestors' skills from being in the Animus. However, this comes at a price, being that if you're in the Animus for too long, you're known to start seeing visions and basically just going a bit crazy. Now in the film they kind of did this because when people are going brain dead, I think that's supposed to be a side effect from being in the Animus too long. And Callum starts seeing visions of Aguilar, and he starts to learn the skills because Aguilar comes into the present day to spar with him and train him. Now this is one thing that I am quite annoyed about them changing, because I remember seeing the bleeding effect in the trailer and that got me quite excited because it reminds me of AC2, the first time I saw the bleeding effect, and was really excited and what the fuck is going on. However, the whole point of it is that it's supposed to be from overexposure to the Animus, yet Callum starts seeing visions and starts getting trained after being in the Animus for literally 5 minutes. Also, why do they need to put hidden blades on him when he's in the Animus? That shouldn't make any difference because you learn the skills just from copying your ancestors and being in the Animus. For example, you're not holding a sword when your ancestor is using one inside the Animus, yet you still learn how to sword fight. So yeah, they should have just left the bleeding effect how it was, as the film version is shit and they fucked it up. In addition to this, another point about the bleeding effect in the Animus that also relates to what I said before about the guards not having guns is that one of the guards literally said, and I quote, "We're feeding the beast, we're making him stronger." Well, no shit. Did they not think about this when making the building? Because it's full of assassins who are only going to become stronger and better at fighting because they're training them in the Animus. So of course without guns, the guards are obviously going to lose in a fight. Next up, I'm going to be talking about the eagle shots. Now, before you say anything, I don't have a big problem with the eagle shots, and I get that they're from the trailer, because it's quite iconic for Assassin's Creed to have an eagle in it. However, I think there's just too many. In my opinion, I think that there should only be eagle shots to introduce new locations. For example, we only need the eagle shot the first time Cal goes to Spain with Aguilar. We don't need it the other 2 times where he's going inside the Animus to the same place. Also, I suppose it's okay to have it when we go to the Abstergo facility for the first time, and when we go to the Templar headquarters, because they are both different locations, so therefore it's fine to introduce them. Moving on, it's pronounced Ricken, not Riken. Now, this is just a little point that I'm not too worried about, but I know Tyler and James and a few other fans are really annoyed about it. Basically, they've changed in the film how they pronounce Alan and Sophia's surname, from Ricken to Riken. Now, this isn't really a big deal, but it's just another annoying little thing they've changed from the games, as I don't think Sophia's in it, but Alan definitely is, and I have proof.
But what if we could give Mr. Ricken a new working piece of Eden?
You see, in this clip, she clearly says Ricken, not Riken, and it's taken from Assassin's Creed Syndicate, and it's, I think, Agent Costa speaking. And even so, it's not just her, because I have another clip here.
Do you know just how much of Abstergo's money we've embezzled into our secret project here? because I'm sure Mr. Ricken noticed by now.
So yeah, this just proves that they have changed it from the games, as I recorded this myself from Assassin's Creed Syndicate, and I'm fairly certain that Alan Rickon is mentioned in a few of the other games, but I just can't remember which ones at the moment. Speaking of characters, I've got a few more points to discuss about them, and I will start by discussing some of the other assassins that are being held at the facility. Now, the problem I have with these characters is that basically they're just not explained, so therefore, us as the audience don't build a relationship with them, and therefore just don't care about them. For example, I like Michael Kenneth Williams' character. However, because he wasn't explained to the audience like who he is, I just don't remember his name. And that's the same with the Asian girl assassin's character. She also seems pretty cool, but because I know nothing about her, I just didn't remember the character's name and don't really care about them. And there's also one other character in the modern day, which is this guy assassin who tries to kill Cal at one point, and you just get the idea that he's really dedicated to the cause. But again, because he's not given a backstory, it's hard for the audience to develop a relationship to him, and therefore at the end when he dies, we don't care. To end my review, I'm going to talk about the ending of the film, which in my opinion was the worst part of it and was just shit. Now, to give you guys some context and remind you what happens at the end of the film, basically, the Templars now have the apple because they've got it from Christopher Columbus's grave, which is a dumb idea on its own because I'm fairly sure someone else would have got the apple after he died, or he wouldn't have just kept it basically. But anyway, because Alan Rickon has just found the apple, they're now having a ceremony for him at Templar headquarters, which is a building with 3 Templar crosses on the top. Can they make it any more obvious? But anyway, one of the main problems I have with this ending is they turn Sophia Rickon into an idiot, who for the rest of the film was probably one of the best characters due to the actress Marion Courtillard's performance in it. The reason I think she turns into an idiot is because basically in the last scene she reads her father's speech in which he says, "If we eradicate free will, we will eradicate the assassins, a cancer that has plagued society for centuries." And for some reason she's annoyed about that. And I don't know why, because Templars are against assassins. That's kind of like the whole point of them. Then after this, Alan Rickon's character goes to do the speech, and suddenly Cal walks in. Then, like she even says in the film, she could just scream and this would then stop the assassins from being able to assassinate Alan Rickon. But instead, no, Cal somehow manages to convince her that it's okay for him to kill her father, and then when he does, 5 minutes later, she changes her mind and makes it her sworn mission to get the apple back and kill Cal and the other assassins, which sets up the next film. Now, in my opinion, there's 2 main things wrong with that scene. The first is what I just said, that she doesn't stop Cal from killing her father, and then when he does, gets annoyed about it and changes her mind. And the second point, which I think is even worse, is how Cal and the other assassins kill Alan Rickon's character. And how they do it is Cal literally walks up right behind him and stabs him. Yeah, it's as dumb as it sounds. I mean, at this point, I was expecting at least an air assassination because obviously that's another iconic thing for Assassin's Creed. There was no one protecting Alan Rickon's character. He didn't have any bodyguards, and even in the building it didn't look like there was any security, which you would think there would since it's the Templar headquarters. But no, Cal and a few other assassins just managed to get in. There's no explanation of how exactly they do it, so I guess the audience just think that they're wearing hoods and so are all the Templars in the building, so that's how they managed to sneak in. Now yes, there is a time lapse between this scene and the previous one where Sophia and Alan Rickon escape to go find the apple. And yeah, I did assume that in this time it was when the assassins planned what they were going to do, being walk up behind Alan Rickon and stab him. And yes, they probably had to cut that scene down or get rid of it because they are running out of time for the film. But this leads me to my next point on how to improve the ending, which would be basically just get rid of that last scene and end the film when Sophia and Alan Rickon escape, because then that's another way of leaving it open for another film, and also it means that in the next film they could show that scene again, except do it much better, and it wouldn't be as rushed, as I think that's clearly the problem, that they just run out of time. Alright guys, that concludes my review slash thoughts on the Assassin's Creed movie. Fair enough, I have just pretty much slagged it off and said loads of things that are wrong with it, but still, like I said at the beginning, I did enjoy the film. I think I'd give it about a 7 out of 10, which is quite an average film score, and also considering it's a video game movie, I'd say it may be the best one, although I am very biased because Assassin's Creed's my favourite video game. However, I wouldn't say it's broken the video game curse, which is a shame because I think Assassin's Creed does have a really good storyline, but again, like all video games, you got to think about how their storylines are intended to go over about a 20-hour period. So it is hard to get a story done in just 2 hours, which is why I'm glad they didn't try and do something like Ezio, because although that would be cool, in the time they have, they just wouldn't scratch the surface of even the second game, and then that would cause the fans to be even more upset. Alright guys, thanks for watching and listening to me ramble on about the Assassin's Creed movie if you sticked around to the end. Do let me know if you want me to do more commentaries in the future, and let me know just your thoughts on the Assassin's Creed movie if you saw it as well. Did you like it or didn't you, and do you agree with my points? Thanks for listening.